Hello YouTube, it's the MTG Master here. Today I'll be going over my Wort the raidmother EDH deck. Wort is a Goblin Shaman 3/3 for 2 hybrid red-green mana and 4. When she enters play, she brings in 2 red and green 1/1 Goblin Warrior tokens, and she gives each red instant and sorcery spell Conspire. Conspire is you can tap 2 untapped creatures that share color with the spell. You copy the spell. Conspire is an additional cost to the spell, so like sack a creature or discard a card. So for lands, we have 19 forests and 17 mountains. That is all the lands we have. Going into instances, we have Reverberate to choose to just copy an instant or sorcery and get new targets for that. Second Harvest instant, double the amount of tokens on the battlefield under your control. Battle Him, give you a red mana for each creature you control, help us ramp out. Early Harvest, untap all you're going to target yourself. Untap all basic lands. That's why all our lands are basic. One of our win cons, Fall of the Titan, deals X damage of up to 2 target creatures or players. That's how we win. Make it really big and conspire it. Harrow, sack a land, get 2 lands in return. Wild Ricochet, really good card. You get to choose new targets for an instant or sorcery spell, and then you copy this spell. Really good to deal with counter spells and all that. Another win con, Comet Storm. Same thing kind of as Fall of the Titans, except you can multi-kick it to target different players or creatures, and it deals X damage to them. Artifact Mutation, destroy target artifact, cannot be regenerated. Put X 1/1 green saplings into play where X is its CMC. Good to deal with artifacts. Going into sorceries now. Animist's Awakening, go get lands from our top of our library. Far Wanderings, go get more lands. We want lots and lots of lands, quick. Tormenting Voice, to discard something to go get 2 new cards. Faithless Looting, if you have too many lands, you can discard some to flash it back, or to go get 2 new ones. Howl of the Horde, you want to cast this second main after you attack, because if you attacked, you get Raid, and Raid gives you, instead of 1 copy of the next instant or sorcery spell you cast, gives you 2, which is really good. Hordeling Outburst, give you 3/1/1 red goblins. Collective Unconsciousness, to draw a card for each creature you control. Be very careful with that and Shamanic Revelations, because if you have too many tokens, you can mill yourself, which not a good thing. Gelatinous Genesis, put XXX green ooze tokens on the battlefield. This is a way to create green tokens, because most of our tokens are red. Brass's Bounty, get artifact treasures to give you mana. Harvest Season, really good with if you're conspiring a bunch of spells. This gets you a bunch of lands out of your deck. This is Expedition, to go get lands from your 2 basic lands from your library and put them into the battlefield tapped. Hull Breach, destroy an artifact or destroy an enchantment or destroy both. Usually you want to choose both, but if no enchantments are around, then you probably want to just choose artifacts. Rampant Growth, go get a basic land. Fade into Antiquity, very good card to deal with things like Darksteel Forge and other indestructible enchantments or artifacts, or things that just you can't let stay on the table for a long time. Hunting Wilds, usually you're not going to pay the kicker for this, but if you need the mana, you can It brings in 2 forests tapped, but if you kicked it for 4 or more mana, it untaps all forests and turns them into 3/3 green creatures. They're still lands, so gives you more green mana. Hurricane, this can be a win con. If your opponents are at lower lives than you, cast Hurricane. Everybody gets X damage, including you, and all flying creatures get X damage dealt to them. Bountiful Harvest, way to gain a lot of life when we have a bunch of lands out, especially if you can Conspire it. Wildest Dreams, return X cards from your hand to your graveyard, exile it. When you Conspire, the X is copied with it, so if you pay X is 1 each, you only get 1 card back. Conspired, you only get 1. Explosive Vegetation, more land searching. That one's for 2 basics. Molten Birth, put 2 1/1 red elemental creature tokens, battlefield, flip a coin. If you win the flip, it goes back into hand. Really good if you can cast that more than once. Devil's Play, basically 2 fireballs, but 1 is for flashback. Really good to target 1 person or player, or creature, I should say, to kill them. Primal Growth, get a land, or if you sack a creature, you get 2 lands into play. They come in untapped. Dragon Fodder, more little goblins. Revel of the Fallen God, 4 2/2 green-red satyrs with haste, is a way to be able to conspire red and green spells faster. Really good card. Toil to Renown. Gain a life for each tapped artifact, creature, and land you control. So you can tap down a lot of stuff and then cast Toil to Renown, gain a bunch of life. Magmatic Insight, discard a land, draw 2 cards. If you're land flooded, really good. This is Renewal. Very fun to conspire this. Search your library for 3 basic lands, gain 7, put them into play tapped, gain 7 life. If you conspire this, it's go search for 6 basic lands, gain 14, which is funny. Besmirch, gain control of target creature, gains haste, untap it, then goad it, which basically means it has to attack when it goes back to your opponent, but it cannot attack you or a planeswalker you control. Fireball, another win con. X damage to target creature or player. You can pay an additional 1 to choose new targets, but then you have to divide X evenly. Volcanic Visions gets back something from instant or sorcery from our graveyard, and then deals that much damage equal to the CMC to target creature or player. No, to target to each creature your opponents control. Nostalgic Dreams. This one, you play it, discard X cards, return X cards to your hand. When you conspire it, you can get back all the cards from your graveyard, but it does remove itself from the game. So exiles, Krenko's Command, more creatures or tokens. Mob Rule, get all creatures with 4 or greater until end of turn, untap them, they gain haste, or 3 power 4 or greater, or power 3 or less, do the same thing. When you conspire it, you can only get the one that was chosen, so not usually a good thing to conspire. Decimate, if you can conspire this, it's potentially an 8 for 1, but you do have to have a legal target for an artifact, a creature, an enchantment, and a land. If there is an enchantment creature, you can target the enchantment creature as your enchantment and your creature, but it does have to have legal targets for all of them to resolve. Harmonize, draw 3 cards. Goblin Rally, put 4 1/1 red goblin tokens into play. There is Empty the Warrens, you could get that, but Storm is only going off of the first spell you cast, because the conspired ones are not cast, they're just copied. Another win con if we can get enough creatures. Overrun, 3/3 and trample until end of turn, which conspiring it gives them 6/6 and trample until end of turn. or you could pick up Triumph of the Hordes or Triumph of the Horde to give them +1/+1 trample and infect. Ulamog the Infinite Gyre is our first creature. Indestructible, destroy something. Usually if we have to discard him, he just reshuffles our library. We have Elvish Mystic for mana ramp. Boreal Druid for mana ramp. Llanowar Elves for mana ramp. And then Arbor Elf for forest. Untap a target forest. More mana ramp. Spore Mound, with all the lands we're putting into play, if he's out, for each one that comes into play, he puts a little 1/1 green sapling into play. Real good card. Dragon Lair Spider, whenever an opponent casts a spell, put a 1/1 green insect token into play. Also has reach, pretty good. Young Pyromancer, cast an instant or sorcery spell, put a 1/1 red elemental into play. This only does the initial cast of the spell if it's conspired. Conspire one does not get you a 1/1 red elemental. Gutter Snipe, instant or same thing, except 2 damage to each opponent. Still only gets the initial cast, not the conspired one. Essence Warden, to gain us a bunch of life while we're making tokens. Also, creatures your opponents control do same thing. Bloodbraid Elf. This can be good if you hit a spell that's not X, because then you can conspire it off the top. Goes and gets you something, CMC 3 or less, you may play it. Keeper of Progenitus. This is kind of an iffy card. Whenever a player taps a mountain, forest, or plains, it adds an additional 1. So it makes forest, mountains, and plains tap for 2. I would suggest maybe not wanting to play that against another green, red, or white deck. Gruul Signet for ramp. Soul Ring, of course, more ramp. Throne of the God Pharaoh. Since we're conspiring and tapping the creatures to conspire, we can drain our opponent's 1 life for each tapped creature you control. And this is each opponent, only on our end step. And then our 1 enchantment is Wild Growth for more mana ramp. So basically, a lot of mana ramp that you can copy because you want to be casting your fireballs, Fall of the Titans, all that for a lot of mana, but that's basically either fireball your opponents to death or overrun them with little goblin tokens. So that's my Wort the Raid Mother deck.